Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Drunkduck Quackcast. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Tanserine, Bames, and Mr. V, who we're interviewing today. Hello, Mr. V.
What's up? How y'all doing?
All right, good. And now we're going to intro the theme music. So, theme music now. That was the theme music. And okay, so we're on to the Quackcast. We're going to be interviewing Mr. V, but we're also going to have to do our usual Quackcast stuff, which is our featured comic. Featured comic this week, Quackcast is going to tell us about friendship material now. So take it away, Kwai, with your talk about friendship material.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Friendship Material by Inky Moondrop, and it is rated M for mature. Hex, Nemo, and Warren find themselves in a palace suspended in midair with little recollection of their former lives or previous identities. Greeted by the whimsical Mr. Orion, dressed in the finest mint green suit while floating down with a handful of balloons, the trio is offered employment by the Nation, an organization that dispatches imaginary friends to real friends. Imaginary friend training includes a personal instructor who was once an imaginary friend. Linked by a physically empathic wavelength, imaginary and real friends experience similar bodily sensations like shared panic attacks and nausea. Imaginary friends are granted one wish following the successful completion of their contract. The art is expressed in a dreamlike digital watercolor style, with lines bending between the real and imaginary. A showcase of vivid colors composed of bright hues are contrasted against a palette of dark shades to indicate a more sinister theme. Expose the dark underbelly of Mr. Orion's Technicolor personality and read Friendship Material by Inky Moondrop, rated M.
And that was Friendship Material. Thank you very much for that, Kwai. Now we have the Gumwallace with his featured music. Gumwallace wasn't able to do a featured thing this week, so we're going to do a special reissue. So our reissue this week is... This music is Start Your Engine, the sound of the powerful diesel motor as it comes to life. You can smell the fumes. Dry, dusty, industrial, rocky. The guitar thrums with a mechanical rhythm, hot and fast. So take it away, Gumwallace, with Dozer Manifesto. Was Gumwallace with his reissued theme. Okay, all right. So we're talking to Mr. V, or Arborcides. Now, Arborcides sounds like a pesticide.
It's actually Arborcides.
Well, that was actually what first came to my mind. So when I first read it, it was like, oh, okay, so this means like killing trees or something.
That's what I do. All the paper. Oh. Just think of all the trees that we've destroyed in making our comics. I guess I'm still old school. I like to use the paper and the pens and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but that's where it came from.
Oh, all right. Well, that makes.
Oh, it's intentional. All right.
So, weren't you Mr. V originally on the duck?
Say again?
What wasn't your name originally Mr. V
Well, that's the pen name I use. Arborcides is my company, like my LLC.
Oh, okay.
It's a little more distinct, I suppose. There are Mr. V's all over the internet, so I needed something a little easier to find.
All right. When did that change happen?
Shoot, search me. Been a minute, I guess.
Yeah, because I had remembered, you as Mr. V from the early days of Drunkduck. I'm pretty sure. You've been around for a long time.
Yeah, I've been around a minute, I guess.
Yeah,
but it's nice to be remembered.
So speaking of a long time, you've been working on the Dozer Manifesto for a long time.
Oh, dude, I know. Like 10 years, maybe 4 years just to do all the research.
Wow.
Not just interviewing people, but like getting reference photos. It was nice to be up there in Granby where people actually have like their own personal photos that they were willing to share of the various destruction that happened throughout the town. So just perpetual research. It took so long. And then even like when I was drawing, more people would show up with more stories, and I'd have to like go back and work things into the story. Yeah, it was Herculean.
I can imagine. Well, let's give people some background. So the Dozer Manifesto is a retelling of the real story behind what many people know as Killdozer, which was this Marv guy in the town of Granby had like a psychotic break or some kind of like bad mental issue. He created a bulldozer. Well, he didn't create a bulldozer. He had a bulldozer. He turned it into a tank, and he went on a rampage and crushed the town. And this is a story many people know from the news. Crushing the town because he was getting back at some people because of slights and issues and perceived corruption in the town, stuff like that. So this is the big story that sort of put, him on the map and Granby on the map. And your Killdozer story sort of goes in and peels back all the onion layers of this stuff as it happened, like a retelling of as it happened on the day, pretty much, or just a lead up to it, pretty much as well. A lead up to it, then a retelling, and then like a bit of a peeling back of what happened afterwards, like the aftermath, and then also talking about your own life within the story as well. So you are a character within the Killdozer story. I mean, the Dozer Manifesto story. So that gives people, our audience, a bit of a background on it. I didn't want to go too far into like our reaction to it before we give people a wider view of what it actually is. All right. So yeah, this Dozer Manifesto. Why did you decide to do it?
Well, at first it was just because I was there. And Granby is a pretty small town. Like you drive through and you blink and you miss it. It really only existed up until recent history as a railroad stop in what is the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. So there really hasn't been a lot to it. When I moved up there, I hooked up with one of the local newspapers, and it kind of gave me the venue to research it a little more. And the more I looked into it, the more I got sucked into the story, I guess. I didn't really expect it to be such a giant undertaking. I thought I would be able to bang it out in a couple years, but it is so complicated and so morally ambiguous that I just had to, I could not write about it, especially with all the the resources and amazing stories that were just at my fingertips.
And all the different people as well. I like how you don't name a lot of the people as well. They're just images of them. So you're being very, very kind to the people who in the
absolutely
town.
Well, a lot of people wouldn't talk to me, like they were afraid of being bombarded by randos on the internet. And I don't blame them. So I really went out of my way to not only keep people's names secret, but even their appearances. Like, I don't draw anyone like they actually look. And sometimes I'll use one character for 3 different people's interviews. And other times I'll make 3 different characters for one person's interview. So I really tried to muddy the waters as much as possible to protect people who are my friends and neighbors.
Well, yeah, that's when you think it's turned into a movie. Then
yeah, any day now, right?
Well, you never know. I mean, I would watch it, honestly.
Oh, well, thank you. That's super kind of you. I will not hold my breath, but still.
I feel the need to say that this is a graphic novel. I really want to call it a book, not just a graphic novel. Not only for its page count. It is over 200 pages. It's
almost 300.
Almost 300 pages. Yeah, almost 300 pages. And the work is top tier from page 1 to page 280 something. I lost count, honestly, because I was racing to finish it. I'll be honest. But it was easy to race to finish it. And I know that is a terrible thing to say to someone that, I don't know how many hours each page took you. But yeah, I could breeze through it and be immersed in the story.
That's my praise. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear that. I was afraid, I spent a decade of my life working on this. It's like, oh, please don't hate it.
I have to say something here because I never compliment. I always am objective. If it is good, I'll say it is good. If it is bad, I'll say it's bad. It is excellent. It's excellent work. Psychologically, it put me in a bad place as I read it. And I think it's good that it did. It is forcing you to think about things and to discuss certain things and to look at the situation and not take the easy way out, like, Robin Hood, psycho villain, label things. I hate labeling because it stops you from thinking. And I like that you don't do that. It brought back memories I didn't like from my own life. But I commend you for this.
Oh, well, thank you. And I so know what you mean. There was a point in writing this book where I could see parts where it was like Marv was right about things. And I was like, what does that mean for everything? How can someone do something so terrible and have a justification behind it? And it made me realize that right and wrong are really just perspectives. They're opinions, and they can be something can be right and wrong at the same time. It's total spiral for me. It took a minute I had to take a break from the book when I realized that.
I really, I can't say how much I massively appreciate that perspective because, I mean, in this world where we now confuse more than ever reality for entertainment, because reality TV was a big thing behind that, but it's just a general thing. People try and imagine that that reality functions the same way as fiction does. And that's not people's fault. That's because people who do entertainment media try and construct reality to be in that kind of fictional way, where we have the heroes and the villains, and real stories are constructed in a kind of a hero's journey with rights and wrongs, baddies and goodies, and people getting their just desserts and stuff like that. So it screws with people's heads. And we see situations like this and we automatically think, yep, I've got to pick out the goodies and the baddies, and this thing happened because it was meant to happen. And, this is like foreshadowed here and this, but your story doesn't do any of that. It has pains to go around all those pitfalls and traps. So you're amazing for doing that. Were you ever tempted to do that?
Boy, I really tried to walk the middle. I'm sure there were times where I wanted to make that judgment call one way or another, but it would have ruined what I was essentially trying to do, which is to not do that, to just let the story be, and to tell this very painful chapter in my community as I don't know, with as much journalistic integrity as possible. The world is full of spin. Everyone can make up their own minds. I really just wanted as much factual information as I could get and let that be the story.
I really love that. It's because like you'd say, okay, the Thompsons, or you think, Mr. What's his name? The mustache guy, the Dochev. Yeah, you already think, okay, they're going to be the villains. Like, there's going to be like foreshadowing, there's going to be plotting, but you just don't do that. The closest you come is not telling from their perspective and not interviewing them. But I mean, there's a choice behind that, because so what was your choice behind not approaching them?
These people are literally my neighbors. I mean, well, okay, let me back that up. They're not, I don't live next door to them, but like they have family members, and they're everywhere in our community. These are real live people with kids and jobs and friends. And my God, like I can't imagine like the amount of scrutiny that they probably get just in our community alone. Just seeing their names, or being like, oh, there's a Dochev, there's a Thompson. It's not fair to them. I feel like they deserve lives that are their own. They shouldn't have to be defined by this terrible thing that happened to them. And I really just wish them peace and happiness going forwards with their lives. Like, there's plenty of other stuff out there where people will like pile on. I did mention like the Thompson's business is riddled with negative reviews from weirdos who have never, like, they don't even know what excavating is, but they've got no problem dropping a couple negative reviews on their website. They've got enough weight to carry. I really didn't want to add to that.
And there's the Tread film that you're talking about. I haven't seen that, but
I haven't either. I wanted to stay away from it. I know that I think at least one of the Thompsons is in it, and and I think I seem to remember seeing his picture in a preview. And I was just kind of like, all right, I mean, that's their choice. You do whatever. I don't want to be in that same boat, though.
Right. Yeah. So I've got a feeling that maybe like the earlier documentaries and stuff like that, I think maybe they were on Marv's side, and I've got a feeling the Tread thing's maybe not on his side.
Who knows? I really don't know. Well, and that's interesting to me also, because I haven't seen the movie. I don't know what the spin is, but I do know that one of the producers of the movie was Patrick Brower, who was the owner of the Sky High News, which was one of the buildings that got demolished. So I always felt that juxtaposition was pretty interesting, that he's helped in making this movie that might shine a beneficial light on Marv. Is anyone?
Okay. No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm speculating then. I don't know the thematic content of that movie.
Oh my god, yeah. I found that really cool. So you had that whole thing about the Sky High News and interviewing that guy in his his book signing. So you had all that episode at his book signing, and then you have your own bit of a story in relation to him, in where Sky News screwed you over.
Oh man, I hate the Sky High News. Those guys are such jerks.
I laugh, but there is like a heaviness inside behind this laughter, because yeah, I really feel you is what I want to say. I don't want to draw this over the attention over to me, but the experiences that you describe there, your experience, Marv's experience, the town's experience, this entire thing hits so close to home over here in Greece, where we have a lot of problems with corruption, and like corruption on all levels and all tiers, like small time, medium time, big time, little people going against each other, bigger people going against little, the whole thing, everywhere, everyone against everyone else all the time. That sort of thing. So it feels so hurtful to see it happen to your community. That's what I am saying. And I wonder if there was ever a discussion over this, like perhaps there was something that, like some checks and balances that should be in place for a protection, for a prevention of people going to these extents, to becoming this desperate or this disillusioned, or even spiraling into mental illness and going that way.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that anyone can relate to. Like, we've all been screwed over. It's not an exclusive experience to people. It is how we choose to react to that injustice that really makes a difference. That's how we define ourselves one way or another. And that, I think that was kind of what I was looking at in writing this book, is what is the proper way to respond when your life is destroyed. Like, do you rebuild or do you destroy everything else?
Yeah. What is your reaction? And another thing I really loved about the story is that, so you've sort of said that about the other people's reactions to things. So you've got Mr. Killdozer thing, but you've also mentioned school shootings in just Colorado, and then the bigger not school shootings, but bigger shootings all over the country. So that was an unspoken thought I had all the way through, thinking, yeah, this is like one of those things, like when people have a shooting, but no one ever had sort of mentioned that, and then you actually do, which I really appreciate. and then you sort of, not only that, you don't even mention it, you also give a scale to it. So yeah, Columbine.
That was
Waco.
I had a section where I was going to write a little more about that, because I was in the same school district as Columbine. Like, I was a junior in high school when Columbine happened, and it was 2 schools down from where I was going. And I'm like, when I was doing comics, when I was just starting out, that's when the Aurora Theater shooting happened at the beginning of The Dark Knight, right? So I've been kind of surrounded by these terrible events, and I was thinking about, like, there was a time where people were writing more about their cultural heritage and their backgrounds and things like that. And when I was starting in on this book, I was like, this is my cultural heritage, like angry white guy violence.
Well, it seems like that at the moment, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus. Oh my God.
Not to bum everyone out, but
No, it's something that needs to be discussed, and um, I think that a lot of people focus, and because it's more sensationalist, I suppose, on the characters of any event. Marv, where do we, exactly, where do we label him to be, and where do we label the Thompsons and the other guys? I always forget the. I want to say Radcliffe all the time. I don't know.
Radcliffe. Damn, Daniel Radcliffe. All that trouble he means to the world. A piece of shit.
But there is. I'm so sorry. But there is a systemic, like, element here that needs to be discussed, and like, look at prevention. I always feel that this discussion about prevention of these events, and it's not just the sorry the odd person, the minority, the exception that is going to snap and cause an event, a traumatic event. But there is a whole gamut of people before you get to that point of people fighting with depression, of people fighting with all sorts of mental health issues caused by this systemic, if you like, situation that could be prevented, at least to an extent. And I feel that this discussion isn't really happening. And your book could be a very good springboard to start this discussion, because again, you don't let anyone take sides and be tribal about it. And I really like this. I really like this, although it makes me emotionally feel things.
Feel things.
Well, and I feel that when people get to that place where they're so low, there is a fear of judgment. And that is a thing that I wanted to avoid in this book. Like, I didn't want Marv to feel judged. I don't want people who are hurting and angry to feel like they're evil or wrong. Like, this is not about right or wrong. It's about doing things from a perspective that is not harmful. Like, like, I wish Marv would have had access to help, because if he had, he would probably still be in our community today. And I spoke to so many people who talk about, like, how great a guy he was and how friendly and helpful, and he'd bend over backwards to help you. That's a lot of people in our community. It is a a great place. It's really friendly and people will help you if you need help. But you have to be there and you have to ask for it. You have to say, I am hurting, I am spiraling. I need someone to hold on to and pull me out of this and help me get on my feet.
Yeah, and you see, and the way you've sort of constructed the story sort of highlights that Marv was never that connected to the community. He never sort of bridged that kind of gap. There was always a bit of distance between him and everyone.
Some people I spoke with said that he purposely pulled himself away from the community so he wouldn't be influenced positively.
Okay.
And I could see that because like from Main Street, you can still see his property. You can see the building that he constructed his tank in.
Oh, wow.
And, like it's in the middle of a little community out there. He could step outside and see houses where people live. And it's amazing how in this entire town, he found this one place to isolate himself. And he was surrounded by neighbors and friends who would have listened to him if he had chosen to share.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Would you say that this was perhaps a part of a vicious circle, like a negative feedback loop? Because there is a point, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I might need the second read of your work. There is a point where you say that he started off on the wrong foot with some certain parts of the community when he arrived, and the way that he bought the property left people with really bad taste, because it was from another issue that happened with the bank, and not like sort of creating a situation where it could, grab onto land that otherwise it wouldn't have been able to grab and then auction off again. So that always creates grudges, and he came into this community through this avenue, taking some of the grudge with him, like some of it brushed off on him. Would you say that this perhaps created a small vicious circle, like he expected to be negatively treated, then he withdrew, then the withdrawal made people not able to connect with him, and then he felt isolated and then withdrew a little more, and so on and so forth? Would you say that?
Well, yeah, that is fairly accurate. He definitely, well, in Marv's own words, he definitely felt that by purchasing his property in Granby for his muffler shop at that auction where it had been taken over by the banks, he did feel like that created animosity within the community. And it did spiral. It did haunt him for the entirety that he lived there. But at the same time, like, so what? Like, who said that everyone has to like everyone? Who said that your neighbors have to be your best friends? It doesn't really matter. Like, you're allowed to not be liked by people and still be able to function in a community. And in the last chapter of this book, I talk about my corporate neighbors, whom I hate very much. I live right across the street from a roofing company, and they suck so bad. They're so loud. It's like living next to an industrial zone. I'm in the middle of the mountains, but they're up at 7 a.m. every morning with their backhoes moving slabs of shingles. And it's loud and it's ugly, and it's an inconvenience, but that's life. That's living in society. Just because people don't like you doesn't mean you don't have a right to exist.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, I love how balanced the work is without being deliberately balanced. I mean, it's not like you don't like say something and then you go, but then there's this. You don't do that. You just have everything together without spin, which is very, very refreshing.
Yeah, that's actually like what a journalist should do, which is amazing that you are doing it, but they are. They are.
Well, I've always one of my favorite cartoonists has always been Joe Sacco, who did a lot of work about Palestine. I don't know if anyone's familiar with his work or not, but
I don't know.
he was a really big inspiration for me, like this kind of journalistic cartooning. And I really wanted to approach this story from that perspective. I just didn't realize how challenging it would be. My God, like it's really gratifying to hear you say that you don't see any spin, because that's what I was trying really hard to do.
Yes.
Oh, you did it.
Neat.
Especially the ending of the story, I really appreciated too, because that tied things up for me, you know. Whereas, because you put yourself in Marv's place towards the end there, you like you made the glasses getting redder and redder,
like almost literally,
as you were becoming Marv, and that really kind of finished it up well for me. Without that, it would have, because there were a lot of points towards the end of the story where you think, okay, so this is the end, but oh my god, it's still going, and so this is way after Marv. This is 20 years later, and there's still more to go. I thought, oh my god, but then at the very end, where we have the whole like Marv transformation, that was the perfect ending for me, because it shows no, Marv is not like an unusual case. Any of us could be this. Any of us could be him.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, and that was another point. Like when I had that realization that I had a common enemy with Marv, I was so disillusioned. Like I could work on the book for like 3 months. But I needed to convey that like any of us could be in Marv's position. It just takes like one mistake, one haunting error, and very easily any of us could be put in the same situation and have to struggle with the same feelings.
Yeah. And I have to also say how, I mean, in art, the whole idea of what is art and everything, and what is a solid piece of work, artistic work, is that you get different reactions. So for us, it was the perfect, wrap up and stuff. And for me, I liked the ending, but for me, it felt like everything was loose ends. and that's, why though? Because I understand the unit of narrative work, but it feels that nothing is resolved, and it shouldn't feel that anything is resolved. I don't know if I'm getting that across.
Yeah.
This is an open wound that is staring at us, and it's not Granby. It is society as it is that is creating these wounds that open up in anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
Please excuse the sound effects. They are these are the lights going on. And the thing I want to say is that, for example, we are living over here in a situation where I am expecting something like this, not with a tank, because thankfully the person that is spiraling doesn't have this skill set. But I am expecting something to happen in this manner. at any moment, and there is like nobody is doing anything about it, even though we are trying to tell people like this is gonna happen. We have to do something about it, and it's that I will not be surprised when it happens. It's not a question, it's a question of when, and I hope that we are out of here because we are preparing to move from the country. I hope that we are out of here before it happens.
Not the line of sight, the tank.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it coming, this tank, and I just don't want to be in its way. So yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that is horrific. I hope it never happens.
I wanted to talk about like the artwork. Like you've got your own particular style, and that's evident, not only in Dozer Manifesto, but it's in your other work too. But in this particular one, you're drawing like real people or stylized versions of real people and real machinery and real buildings and real towns. Everything that actually exists in Granby. Was it like did you have to like learn any new skill sets or like really expand what you can do to draw these machineries, to draw people, to draw the landscape and stuff like that? Because like for me, it's really hard to transition between people, vehicles, machinery. Like it's not easy.
No, absolutely not. And I'm fortunate that I had a lot of practice. While I was up there in Granby, I worked for the Grand Gazette, one of the newspapers, for about 7 years. And I did a weekly nonfiction. There was like a page strip every week for them about something that had happened historically in Grand County. And it really forced me out of my comfort zone. I had to draw a lot of weird stuff I'd never drawn before. A lot of old buildings and like horse buggies, old cars, things like that. And 7 years of drawing something different every week is something that you weren't really expecting, and really builds up the old chops.
Nice.
But I definitely had to spend a lot of time sometimes to get a picture right. And I mean, it's just patience and persistence, really. Like you do it until it's as good as it's gonna get.
Well, I mean, it's very effective because the whole Dozer Manifesto story it's mainly you've got like a lot of humans, people talking, and then you've got the great action sequences when the whole event, the killdozer event, happens. And that is really effective. Like, and that's not easy to do, from doing a lot of talking heads and stuff like that. And then you're doing these action sequences with the vehicles. And
I would say that it was harder to find different ways to draw Marv sitting in front of his tape recorder than it was to draw the stuff outside. Because he's stationary. He's just sitting there talking. It's like, oh, well, how many different perspectives are there that I can use? It was almost a relief when I got to that part where I could draw something else.
Yeah.
Wow. But I mean, I can't like underscore the fact. Oh no, undersell. Oversell? I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's freaking hard to do like vehicle action sequences and doing like vehicles from different perspectives and stuff like this.
Oh my god, I know. Oh, I hate drawing cars.
And you've got this thing that isn't like, it isn't a standard car. This is just custom concrete covered Komatsu bulldozer,
right?
That you've done from all different angles and stuff, fighting a front end loader. It's just amazing.
I did sacrifice some realism in drawing that. Like, it's not a spot on representation. It is. I definitely took a little artistic license, but still, though, I appreciate the kind words about it. It's very vindicating.
Yeah, well, it's way more than good enough to be not only recognizable, but like to be absorbing. You know, you're reading this and you're thinking, "Wow, oh my god, that the hit when the front end loader hits his killdozer, you feel that, you know, like, oh my god, that's bam." That.
I have to say a little detail that I loved. I kept staring at it for a while, and I could have read 5 pages just in the time I took to stare at the panels that had the debris that stayed on the tank as he was going through, the buildings and all of that, and you took the time to depict the debris staying on, like it got progressively covered with debris before ending up where it ended up. But I love that. That was like just a chef's kiss. That I really love. And I might go back and look at it again. I really like that detail.
Such kind words. Thank you.
You didn't have to draw it, is what I'm saying, but you did, and it makes everything heavier. The stuff is falling on this thing, and this thing is unstoppable, and all of that. And also, why are you shooting at it, ricocheting bullets everywhere? Like it was so dangerous just shooting at that thing.
Oh man, yeah.
It's insane. Like, it was so riddled with bullets, and I did try and convey that in the part where I got to hold a piece of the armor, and there was a bullet hole. Like, you could see where a bullet ricocheted off of this thing. And I feel like that's a pretty decent metaphor for the times we live in, especially in America, where it's like, what's the solution to America's gun problems? It's more guns. And that's how freaking pointless such a perspective is. I mean, guns do not solve anything.
No.
Yeah, but like Tan says, with the debris on the tank, it really underscores how unstoppable this frickin' thing was.
Yeah. And if he hadn't got stuck, he fell in the one crawl space on Main Street, and if he hadn't done that, he probably would have done a lot more damage.
Yeah, just kept going like a literal tank, and it's more effective than an actual tank because of the power to weight ratio of this thing. See, a tank only has enough power to push itself and a bit extra, whereas a bulldozer has overpower because it has to not only pull itself around, it has to crush everything around it.
Yeah,
so it's more powerful. But I mean, he added the extra weight of the armor and the concrete, of course, like that, so that would have limited it a bit. But still, the police weren't able to stop it. Their guns couldn't do anything, whereas a real tank is you can. It has a lot more sensors and stuff like that are more vulnerable to people. Whereas his custom built thing only had cameras. So real tanks don't do that. They have direct vision through periscopes and things like this. So, and most of the time when the driver's driving around, he has a hatch open. Marv's tank's designed so it's never would have been opened. It's just all closed in. He only planned to look through video cameras. It's like a suicide thing. So
hey, that's an interesting point you make there. Ugh, that is horrifying. It was like the ultimate tank.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a town destruct guided missile. It was unstoppable.
The guy knew how to make it. That took skill to make such a thing, for sure.
Beyond debate.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It wasn't just just a psychotic break. It wasn't just someone going mad, because he spent a year to do this.
multiple years. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, and that's one person. I wasn't able to get this in the book, but I was like trying to examine the depths of Marv's insanity. That was a really challenging thing to do. A person pointed out that if he had been taken alive and been put on trial, he couldn't have pled not guilty for reasons of insanity because of all the premeditation that went into it. And the amount of know-how that he had to employ to just make the damn thing. Like he was definitely like parts of him were functioning the way they were supposed to. So like how do we even define insanity at this point? Like people who have lost their minds aren't able to make things like that.
This is where I go. This is where I go. Actually, it depends.
Yeah.
There are a lot of mental illnesses where you can be fully functional and out of your mind. Let's put it that way. Like if you take a schizoid, any schizoid mental illness, schizophrenotypic or schizoid paranoia, anything like this, you have a functional person that works within a framework that is not real, like hooked, like linked to reality, if you like, or linked to reality in a way that makes sense to everyone else. So they will be functional. And again, they cannot plead insanity because they know what is right and what is wrong. The problem is that they are reacting to a situation that is not completely objective, let's say, or grounded to objective factual reality, or it might be, but the way they are reacting is the problem. It depends on the mental illness. So this is my actually.
Yeah, no, fair. I defer to your expertise there. That's another reason why I didn't go into it.
Yeah, you didn't actually,
We will
which
never
is
know.
really good.
Yeah, we won't.
Like a conspiracy theorist, they're operating on incorrect assumptions about the world and
yeah, exactly
about things.
And the thing is, you need a gazillion tests, like think a month of assessment to even have an intelligent guess that we call a hypothesis to work off of, like for this kind of thing. If you want to do the job right, always right, but it's not something that you can parse out immediately and say, oh, yeah, he's crazy, or he has a psychotic break. There are so many psychotic breaks. Not everything is, I believe I'm Napoleon, or I'm Batman, or I'm Bane. Not Banes. and I go off on a rampage. It's not, doesn't work. It doesn't always work like this. But what I want to also really commend you for, I really enjoyed, was the color coding. I love the color, the way you
Same.
the way you use. Sarah, I can talk, I promise. The way you use color is spot on, so professionally done.
The blues, the oranges, the reds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found I was reading a scrolling PDF of this comic, and I really noticed that. It's like there's a lot to read, there's a lot to take in each section of it, text-wise. But I noticed, man, my eyes aren't getting tired because of the color. Like the way it'll be a blue wash, and then kind of like a red wash, and it fits the tone of whatever scene is going on. But it's also man, this is really keeps it readable, and it keeps it that's very done by a very capable artist. Obviously.
Yeah. And it codes to emotions so well, really well. And I really enjoyed that. I don't often see it, so.
Yay. Well, I'm glad it was effective. It definitely, oh my God, if I was using like a normal color palette, I'd still be working on the book. Oh, dear God. So,
that too, yeah.
It was convenient to use a limited color palette, but I'm glad the the symbolism of that went through. It was definitely used to highlight perspective more than like just anything else, I suppose. So awesome. Glad it worked.
And you mean character perspective rather than artistic perspective?
yes, character perspective, absolutely.
Yeah, I also appreciate, because I'm like, when I do my comic stuff, my Pinky TA comic, I'm very much like I'm into like showing weaponry and all this kind of stuff and technological kind of things. So I really appreciate that there was like technological expertise when you were in the whole killdozer fight, and it was just really like, oh my god, you understand the cameras and the gun angles and things like this, and like a writer who didn't understand that would just sort of like just blasé all that kind of stuff, but you did understand the technical aspects of the machines and the fight and stuff like that, so that lent a lot of veracity to it.
I was very fortunate to come into the possession of some interior pictures of Marv's Dozer, so that did help quite a bit in doing that accuracy. But man, yeah, it was definitely a challenge. That's outside of my comfort zone, absolutely.
Wow. Well, I appreciate it, because like you come at this massive project from so many different perspectives, and and for all of that, you bring so much to the table. You don't go easy mode on anything. You put the work in from every angle, not only for the people, the machinery, the location, the time, absolutely everything. So it makes it such a big work, such a valid work, I would say.
And I would actually call it a historical graphic novel, because it is an historical account with so much research behind it. And I really would classify it, not completely necessarily, but definitely. This is a work about the historical event, and I'm saying that because I'm doing a lot of historical stuff, and it felt like such genuine work, going in and as objectively as humanly possible, depicting.
Yeah. Well, in Grand County, there's a long history of that kind of record keeping. It's a pioneer community. It was founded in the 1880s, and a lot of really colorful characters. And our museums up here are chock full of firsthand accounts of these wild characters who were alive 100 years ago. And it's been so important in preserving the history of this community, because without those accounts, it'd be lost completely. It was just a matter of one or two people throughout decades just taking the time to keep track of important events, and we know about them today. I wanted to do the same thing with this. And so I'm glad it was effective. I hope it lives up to the traditions of my predecessors.
It does. Our call is going to end, so we're just going to stop it and restart it. So bear with me.
Oh, sure.
One thing when Tance mentioned historical document remind me of what's this the famous comic Persepolis.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it really had that feeling for me. Like, this is Persepolis for Granby.
Oh, that's some high praise. Oh man, I don't know if I could take that compliment.
So an animated film in your style, that would complete it properly.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
that would be great. That
my
would be
wildest
great.
dreams.
I would watch it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that would be the ultimate document of the whole Dozer Manifesto.
Oh man, just don't ask me to animate it, dear God.
No, we'll pay a bunch of Chinese people to do that. That's how that works, or Koreans. Well, thank you very much for coming on the Quackcast and talking to us about it.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun today.
No worries.
Great group of people here. It's been a lot of fun to hang out.
Oh, you've been amazing coming on. It's so cool. And so great to meet Mr. V or Arborcides.
Yay!
The real person.
Yes.
All right.
Oh.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, that you are a real person. You're not just a character in a comic.
In the flesh.
Ah, jeez. All right. Well, yeah, thank you very much for that. And this has been Quackcast number 690. Nice round number there.
Right.
Well, one round number, the 0 on the end. So, yes. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.